Welcome back to Melodic Memories of the Lights Monarch. I'm Casey, and Happy New Year. Obviously, by the time you're listening to this, we're past Christmas time, so next up is the New Year. But before that, we need to talk about, or rather, I need to talk about, my top 10 releases of 2025. Now, I made a list here for the albums at least, and some honorary mentions, as well as some EPs and singles that have released. Not everything under the sun. I know I am, unable to listen to everything that has been released. That is humanly impossible, but I tried to listen to as much as I could. There were still a few albums that I didn't get to listen, which is why I have an honorary mention kind of category for ones that I actually haven't heard yet, and I'll get to those. But first and foremost, we need to start with albums. Now, this year has been insane with music releases. I've very much enjoyed it all throughout the year, and even though I wasn't able to listen to as much as I wanted to in terms of new music, the things that did release that I was, sinking my teeth into were, I had them on repeat, time and time again, over and over for the certain parts of the year. And granted, my Spotify Wrapped, if you guys haven't heard the episode where I talk about that and recap it, please go back and listen a couple episodes ago. But my Spotify Wrapped did not include every album that I enjoyed this year. And I mean, rambles aside, my top 10 albums of the year, let's start at number 10, which is Spirit Box's Tsunami Sea, which came out March 7th, 2025. The track list goes Fata Morgana, Black Rainbow, Perfect Soul, Keep Sweet, Soft Spine, Tsunami Sea, A Haven with Two Faces, No Loss, No Love, Crystal Roses, Ride the Wave, and Deep End. Now, as I said, this album came out March 7th, so earlier in the year. It started off my year in a very good way. It's an album that I didn't really know what to expect, but before it actually came out, I did take the time to go through the album, their whole discography rather, before the album dropped, and that was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'm glad that I was able to do that and actually experience all of their music up to that point, because this album from Spirit Box is the most mature and refined that they have ever sounded up to this date. And originally, my favorite release of theirs was their EP that came out before it, The Fear of Fear. And that, if you haven't heard it before, you kind of know why that would probably be my favorite. It's just amazing. And this was a step above it, somehow. I'm absolutely shocked that they were able to step up their game in the way that they did. But I was very happy with it. I don't know if I could really give an absolute favorite of mine from this album. But if I had to pick one just off the top of my head from memory, because I didn't get a chance to go back and listen, I know, apologies. But I'd have to give it to the title track, Tsunami Sea. I remember that one sticking with me very well, and alongside the entire album. So it's an album that, if you haven't heard it, go give it a listen, but it is only number 10 on my list, which is the bottom. Doesn't mean that it is the worst by any means, but it is the bottom of a lot of good releases that came out this year. Now, to get to number 9, that goes to Hotel Mira with their release, Pity Party, which came out March 14th, 2025. Now, for those that don't know who Hotel Mira is or don't know them very well, they are a smaller band, Canadian band. I was actually able to see them on tour at Fred's here in GP. Maybe last year, I think, for their last album that they released. If it wasn't last year, a year before. But regardless, they stuck with me. They were a band that I really, really liked. I checked out some of their stuff and got to see them live, and that performance really stuck with me. So I've been following them since. And this album came out again earlier in the year, March 14th. If I'm not mistaken, that's about a week after Spirit Box's release. So amazing music just back to back, but this album itself I didn't get a chance to actually listen to until much later. So it didn't hit me in March, but I did get to listen to it, and I did very much enjoy it. Now again, Pity Party goes number 9 spot, and the track list goes America's Favorite Pastime, Right Back Where I Was, Made for This, Cowboy, Melissa, Making Progress, Runner, Javelin, Stone's Throw, Back to the Bedroom, On, and There Goes the Neighborhood. So a decent sized album, 12 tracks, all very good in my opinion if you like that kind of music. And honestly, the best way to describe them is kind of an indie pop rock or alternative rock maybe. They're very good though, regardless. They use live instruments. They're a younger band. They haven't been around for an incredibly long time. And I believe that they deserve more publicity than they have ever gotten because I do believe they are a quality band. And actually, they were able to get seen by a lot more people when they went on tour just this last year with Mariana's Trench. So congrats to them. And I hope it means more big things from them because they did release an EP after this the same year called After Party, which I will talk about in a moment, don't worry. But as for an album release, Pity Party, I really enjoyed it. It was kind of soft at the beginning. I didn't really know what to expect from it. I know I heard some of the singles as it was coming out, but not all of them. And I was happily content and surprised with the album as it ended. I really liked it, and if I had to give a favorite track, I would have to say that goes to the end track, There Goes the Neighborhood. I just really liked that one, and the whole album, again, solid from start to finish. It gets my number 9 spot. Hotel Mira, good job. Now, number 8, the next album on the list has to go to The Devil Wears Prada with their release, Flowers, which came out November 14th of 2025. Now, this album came out towards the end of the year, obviously November 14th, and it is an album that I didn't get to listen to right away as well. But when I did listen to it, I gotta say, I loved it. I know that this album in particular, from The Devil Wears Prada, is a bit of a controversial one. You either really loved it or you kind of hated it. And in my opinion, I really loved it. I liked the sound change that they were going for. I liked the differences. It was much more poppy in a lot of the sounds. It still has the signature like scream singing, hardcore kind of alternative sound that they are known for sure. But a lot of that on a lot of tracks is dialed back where there's more singing. Like there's more sing-song and different kind of instrumentation. Not all of the songs, of course, but a lot of them. I know that there was a few while I was listening to it that sounded kind of like some of their old stuff, which isn't necessarily what one would want from new music. Or maybe you do, but in my opinion, I don't think that that's the best, which is why it's only at number 8 on this list. And it's still pretty high up in a top 10, but in my opinion, it deserves it. Because though a lot of these songs came out way before the album actually dropped, I fell in love with those songs, like Ritual and For You, and even the ones that they released, I believe, Wave and Where the Flowers Never Grow. I think those were the ones that came out around the same time, like in a bundle. There's like a huge music video for it. Very artsy, of course, but that's kind of what this album was. I wasn't sure what to expect. I personally love floral aesthetic, and with the fact that the album was called Flowers, just kind of, fit. For something for me to be excited for. And the whole album from start to finish, I very much enjoyed. Now that track list for Flowers goes That Same Place, Where the Flowers Never Grow, Everybody Knows, So Low, For You, All Out, Ritual, When You're Gone, The Sky Behind the Rain, The Silence, Eyes, Cure Me, Wave, and My Paradise. And it ends in such a somber way. Like, if I had to give a favorite track once again, it's so hard to pick on this one because Where the Flowers Never Grow, I adore. For You just rips my heart out. Ritual is a banger. I fell in love with that song when it came out like 2 years ago or whenever it did. And Wave, of course, is just like a perfect somber interlude to go into My Paradise, which if I had to give a top song, I might have to give it to My Paradise just for how it made me feel. Like, it made me feel so much emotion and kind of cry a bit. Like, it left me feeling like, wow, growth. That because this album is full of growth, just as Flowers do. Even though the second track is called Where the Flowers Never Grow, the album is kind of a journey. You get to go along that journey with them in the musical sense. And I personally really, really enjoyed it. For everyone that didn't, I would love to know why, because I can't really understand why unless if it is because of that sound change, for the lack of a better term. But they really did a good job with this album, and I wouldn't say it is their best album of all time, of course, but it was a solid LP that I believe deserves a listen if you like that kind of music. Now, next up, number 7 on the list has to go to All Time Low with their newest release, Everyone's Talking. Came out October 17th, 2025. I believe the Friday before I actually went out to go see When We Were Young Festival, which they did play. So if you guys haven't been yourself or want to hear anything about it, I do have an episode a couple episodes back in October. Just scroll down a bit. It'll be there, my experience at When We Were Young Festival. And wow, was that ever a good festival? But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about All Time Low and their album. And they were actually able to play some of the singles from that album live during that performance. So amazing to be able to see. And the album itself, when I did get to listening to it, because I was a bit distracted with Panic at the Disco and a lot of the other releases that had come out at the time, I was, catching up on Panic because I was going to see them. They were the big headliner of When We Were Young this year. And All Time Low, when I did get a chance to go and listen to it, did not disappoint. I was excited for this album from the very beginning with the original single release of Sucker Punch, and then The Weather, and even Oh No when that came out, which I got to hear a bit early because I was signed up to their email list and stuff. Awesome. Singles, awesome. All of them I loved. And then the album itself, just another solid performance from All Time Low. Like, I swear, ever since their album Wake Up Sunshine, which is my favorite of theirs, I feel like they haven't missed. And I know that might be a bit of a stretch. I'm sure some people listening right now might be like, what? All Time Low? Because I know they're a little controversial. I understand that. I'm not going to get into any of that because I personally don't really know much. And until anything is proven, with fact, then I will take it as such. But for this album and this album alone, all of that aside, Everyone's Talking by All Time Low. They really did a very good job with this album. And it's just another pop punk, kind of pop rock, emo, banger. They did it. Like, they lived up to their expectation. And the new sounds that they've brought into this album with being more instrumental and just a bit less kind of immature, it really kind of shines on this album. And the track list for it goes Cold Open, Everyone's Talking, Sucker Punch, Oh No, The Weather, Falling for Strangers, Viva Las Vegas Nerve, Sugar featuring JoJo, Good Night, C'est La Vie, Bubblegum, Little Bit, Cigarettes and Sabotage, Tread Water featuring Rustin Kelly, Different Languages, and Butterflies. Now, this album, it really made me feel, just as kind of all of them have, and will as we continue on with the list. I'm very much an emotional music listener, if you haven't found that out already. But this album, with what it brought to the table, it was very good. It was very polished and probably not the best that they've ever sounded, but kind of the most them they've sounded, if that makes sense. And I don't mean in the musical sense fully. I mean more so just with the confidence and the happiness. Like, they might finally be okay, and not, hate their lives anymore, just as they kind of did when they probably started, which is why they were an emo band. Now, because this album is what it is, and they sound like they've kind of found themselves personally as their own human beings, I really appreciate that, because it shines through the music, or else I wouldn't be saying it. And in my opinion, the best song on the album, or at least my favorite, is the single, The Weather. I can't get enough of that one, and Sucker Punch. Like, those are probably top 2, but if I had to pick a non-single, I'd have to give it to Butterflies as well, which is the, again, end track of the album. I just really, really liked how it made me feel once again, and it's kind of that feeling of butterflies. I really liked it. And not saying the song gave me butterflies, but I can relate to what he sings about. And overall, a very good release from All Time Low. Not their best, but worthy of number 7 on my top 10. Now, next up, I have to give number 6 6 out of 10 to Arrows in Action with their album I Think I've Been Here Before, released September 19th, 2025. Now, this album, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with. I love the music, so that's why it's number 6. But the way that it was released, I kind of did not enjoy. Now, go back in time to earlier this year because this came out originally as a side A. That's what we got first. And we eventually got side B in full, the entire album, if you will, September 19th. So later in the year. And honestly, even all of that aside with how it was released, with them kind of releasing the entire album before it was actually out, like, how do I even begin to say this? When they released it, they were releasing single after single after single after single, and then eventually the album came out. I believe when the album actually came out, there was only maybe one song, if not two, that we as an audience had not heard at this point. And in my opinion, that's kind of shit. I don't enjoy that. I really don't enjoy that. But hey, I guess it worked. It made my top 10 and it is number 6. So I don't really know what to say about that. I am kind of conflicted a little bit in just that alone, but I wanted to kind of stick to the music and the songs themselves and how they really stuck with me and made me feel and why I enjoyed them so much, not really how they were released. So that is why it's here at number 6. But I Think I've Been Here Before by Arrows in Action. The track list goes Celebration, Feel It Again, Hello Sunlight, Light Like You, Lost in the Moment, Deja Vu, Empty Canvas, Cheekbones, Corner of Your Mind, Nobody Told Me, and Stay Awake. A shorter album, it is 11 tracks, but it's only like 31 minutes, so won't take up much of your time. But again, just a pop-punk banger. They are very much that emo kind of pop-punk band, even though they're kind of confused to be like a Christian band for some reason. I guess just with their imagery and their name and kind of like how they look, maybe it kind of comes across like that. And even some of what they sound like, I suppose. But in my opinion, this album was very good. It was worth the wait and awkward release cycle. But I really enjoyed every song on here. Even though some of the songs can feel like they might have been made just for TikTok, which not loving that, and I hope that they don't fully lean into that in the future. I know that they're a newer band, so that's kind of why it comes off like that in moments, but all the same, a very solid album, a lot of fun, a very fun, uplifting sounding kind of album, even though some of the lyrics in a lot of the songs are a bit somber and sad. But I really liked it. Hello Sunlight, I believe, was the standout track for me because it just, like, it's that feeling of finally seeing the sun again after being brought down within someone's darkness. And usually that's with a shitty relationship, right? Be it an actual lover, romantic, or any kind of relationship, really, even though this song in particular focuses more on that lover aspect. Very good album. I very much enjoyed it, and it is worthy of my number 6 spot on this list. So Arrows in Action, if you haven't heard them and want some like new pop punk, or even maybe more so pop rock alternative kind of vibe, they would be the ones to check out. They're a newer band, so they've got a long ways to go, and I hope that they make it real far. Now, to go on to number 5, we're halfway through my list here. It has to go to MGK with his newest release, Lost Americana, which came out August 8th, 2025. Now, Machine Gun Kelly, or MGK as he likes to go by now, he is an artist that I know, I very well know, and am very aware of his controversy. I know a lot of people don't respect him, don't like him much. I personally have to say I don't care. And I say that with respect, of course. But if you're going to shit on him, maybe you need to look into some of his music. I'm not saying it is the most artistic, most amazing music out there. But this album, if you haven't heard it, this album right here is, in my opinion, his best album from start to finish. No deluxe tracks, no extra bonus things, no changes. It's just him, and I don't even believe it has any features on it at all. So it is literally the most authentic MGK you can get to where he is right now in his life. And I can't give anything but respect to this man because I was able to see him in concert just a bit ago. If you want to check that episode out too, I talked all about it. MGK Lost Americana in Edmonton. And I gotta say, this album, it stuck with me. And when I finally listened to it around the time it came out, I don't believe I was day one listener, but I was close enough. I was shocked because truthfully, I didn't know or really begin to know what to expect. Because with MGK, he's kind of been all over the place. He releases a country cover here, he releases some rap freestyle there, and then some really sad song, and then maybe absolute shit. Like, he's all over the map. And in my opinion, this album was everything kind of culminated up to this one point in his own personal life, from what we've seen from the media, and it goes to show just how much this man has grown. And it shines through his music. So this whole album is so polished, so catchy, and there are a lot of songs on it that just make you feel. Like, it made me feel anyways, and I actually found myself crying towards the end of this album, which I did not in any way begin to expect. I did not know I would be crying to an MGK album, even if the past two albums did make me tear up towards the end of them. It just goes to show that MGK does and is capable of having some emotional depth to his music, even though that might be hard to believe from the outside looking in if you don't listen to him. But I will say, if you're into modern kind of pop music / rock music, even some rap, rock and roll, I mean, it's got a lot of it's kind of got it all, not gonna lie. Not in terms of heavy metal and a lot of those genres, but like pop and rock, it is there and there in spades. Now with this album, the track list goes Outlaw Overture, Cliché, Don't Wait, Run Fast, Goddamn, Vampire Diaries, Miss Sunshine, Sweet Coraline, Indigo, Starman, Tell Me What's Up, Can't Stay Here, Treading Water, and Orpheus. And again, this album itself, Lost Americana, with the whole cover being the back of his leather jacket, and it kind of mimicking cigarettes. To say this straight out, this album was kind of him going back through the musical decades, and that's why the album has so many different sounds within it. And he does sample some songs, and I know if people aren't a fan of that, you might not enjoy this in its entirety, but what a good album in my opinion. And I personally love Miss Sunshine. That was one of the singles that released, and I adore it. But for ones that weren't singles, I would have to give my top track to Orpheus or Treading Water. Like those two, though, the end of the album, the last, like, even Indigo, that one I remember making me feel very emotional. And this album is so repeatable for me personally. I know on the drive to Edmonton to go see him live, Paul and I, my buddy, we listened to this album on repeat because some places don't have service and we had the CD at least 5 times, like throughout the whole trip. And without getting tired of it, without getting bored of it, without wanting to skip any of it, it is a very solid contender, and that is why it is my number 5 of 2025. Good job, MGK, and I cannot wait for that rap album because I know it's coming, and I know Halsey is going to be on it, and Halsey is one of my favorite artists. Next up, number 4, goes to Hayley Williams with her newest release, Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party. Came out November 7th, 2025. At least that's when it fully released. I know that this album also had a very weird release. Not so much in the sense of like arrows in action, but it was a lot different and way far from what the norm is. Hayley Williams, she is now an independent artist, so she doesn't have to conform to the regular way of releasing things, like no label. I believe they have their own with Paramore. So Hayley Williams was able to release this originally on her website for completely free. People could listen to it and probably even download the tracks, but now it is finally fully out because it had 3 extra tracks that weren't on that website that came out slowly. And now the album is here, and it's nominated for a Grammy. Like, holy shit. That is awesome. I'm so happy for Hayley Williams to finally be nominated in that Grammy category as a solo artist. And as for this album, it isn't my favorite of hers. Like, I do personally have a very soft spot and more adoration for her last release, being Flowers for Vases. But this one, overall, from start to finish, is probably her most solid album. Just as like a casual listener standpoint. You don't have to be super sad. You don't have to be going through a bunch of stuff, even though if you are, this definitely helps. I know for sure. It's very much a coping album, just as kind of all of her releases have been. But it is most certainly the most polished she has ever sounded. The most her I feel like she has ever been. So I'm very happy with this album. And I'm glad and happy to say I'm going to be seeing her next year on my birthday. So of course this album's going to make my top 10, and it is number 4 for me. And I want to talk about the track list because it goes Ice in My OJ, Glum, Kill Me, Whim, Mirtazapine, Disappearing Man, Love Me Different, Brotherly Hate, Negative Self-Talk, Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party, Hard, Discovery Channel, True Believer, Zissou, Dream Girl in Shibuya, Blood Bros, I Won't Quit on You, Parachute, Good Old Days, and Showbiz. A very long album, 20 tracks, an hour and 6 minutes it clocks in at, but every second of it is enjoyable, in my opinion. Now, originally, the track list did not exist for this album. It was released without one. There was no specific order for any of these songs, and that's one of the things I wanted to touch on, which kind of made this album a lot of fun, even just outside of the musical experience, because Hayley Williams, she went to her socials and got her fans, and I'm assuming friends as well, but for certain the fans, to make up their own playlists and, put them in the track list that they believe the album should be in, because this album originally came out all as singles after it got off of the website, when it finally made it to streaming services. Now, when that happened and we were making playlists, I was able to make one. My friends made one. Shout out to Hannah. She loves Hayley Williams and she made one herself. And a lot of them kind of, boiled down into what this became. And I'm a very big fan of that. I love the social interaction, the interaction with the fans, most importantly. Because not a lot of artists do that. And not a lot of artists this big does something like that. I know it's not Paramore, but it is still Hayley Williams, and she is a legend, whether she wants to admit it or not, because I know she's incredibly humble, but she's a legend. She's a musical legend, and I personally love her. And I love this album. Like, she did not disappoint in any way. I remember listening to it when it first came out on that website, and then listening to it when it finally dropped in full. Amazing. I adore it. And if I had to give my number 1 song on it, it is so incredibly hard to pick one, but I just really, really loved Brotherly Hate. Don't know why it's that one, because honestly, I could probably walk away, come back, and pick a different one, but the cadence to it, I just couldn't get enough. I had that one on repeat more than I probably should have, to be honest. So Hayley Williams, she gets my number 4 spot. I loved it, and I'm very excited to see her next year. And hopefully, fingers crossed, Paramore is on a comeback soon. Now, to get into my top 3 of 2025. Number 3. That title goes to Acres, with their release, The Host, which came out in full September 26th, 2025. Now with Acres, they kind of also released their album in a little bit of a weird way. Maybe this is just the way that things are going with the whole music industry and the way of releases. I can't say for sure, but we got the first part of The Host back earlier in the year. I can't remember exactly when, because they actually removed that from streaming services and just made it the one that you can pick, so I can't remember when the first half came out. But originally, when it came out, it was told to be, that's the album. They never said that there was more to come. They never said anything that there was more songs. That was the album. And it was short. I will say it was short. And I was kind of confused, but I really, really liked it. Like, it hit me in a way that I was like, holy shit. And, I mean, it is my number 3. And then when the rest of it came out, completely unprompted, it dropped kind of... I believe it had a little bit of a build-up, but the single for it that was like, yo, there's more, is with the singer of The Plot in You. And, oh my god, I love The Plot in You. So that was like a match made in heaven for me, to be honest. And I was very happy. I did have to kind of wipe away the bad taste in my mouth just regarding the fact that they kind of released a first part of the album, then were like, actually, there's more, because they didn't advertise it as that. But when they did announce that it was, there was more to the album and there was a second half, if you will, they did release it physically, which I was lucky enough to pre-order and get myself. Love that vinyl. Oh my God, it's beautiful. It's like a splatter that matches the artwork perfectly, and it came out perfectly too. Very happy with that. But that aside, the host, the album itself, the track list, it goes Bloodlust, Not So Different, Staring at the Sun, Take My Last Breath, Built to Bleed, Push Me Away featuring Landon Towers, From the Plot in You, Empty Room, Steal the Light, Welcome to the Family, and Around Again. Now, oh my God, a very short album, only 10 songs, 31 minutes once again, on the shorter side rather, but it still was everything that I could have wanted it to be. And I didn't even really have anything in mind that I wanted it to live up to, but the way that they're changing and evolving their sound from their last release being that EP called What It's Like to Feel Worthless, which I personally loved. My favorite release of theirs still is Burning Throne, but that last EP was amazing. This is a completely different turn. Like, they're heading down the road and swerved. Like, I very much enjoy this. It shows that they can sing in more ways than just scream or have that kind of whispered soft singing. I know that might not make sense, but if you've heard them, you kind of might understand what I'm saying. But like the last song on the album, that's a pop song. Like, I was shook. I had no idea. And Around Again, that is probably my favorite on the album. I adore the whole thing. Like, I don't know if I could properly pick a favorite. Like, I guess for singles I'd give it to Staring at the Sun because that one's just so good, or Steal the Light. But Around Again, oh my God, I was jaw dropped listening to that because I didn't expect it. It went to the next track, Around Again, and yeah, my jaw was to the floor. I did not know that they could sound like that. And I don't want them to sound like that all the time, but it shows the versatility and just what they can do as musicians. It was so impressive that a band that is Acres, and if you know their back catalog and what they have sounded like, to go this route with a more gritty, more angry kind of sound while still keeping the emotional lyricism that they're known for and the emotional instrumentation that they're known for, just in a different light. Adored it. The Host, it is a very good album, and that is why it is deserving of my number 3 spot. I loved it. Acres, I cannot wait to see you guys again. I hope I get to, because I've only seen them live once and they were the opener, but man, to get a headlining set and get kind of like that album, not in full, but like a lot of the songs on that album and some from their past catalog, I'd be in heaven. But Acres, The Host, gets my number 3 spot, no doubt. Now, by the sounds of it, that could have very well been my number 1 pick, but there were 2 more that came out on top, and this number 2 out of 10 on my top release list kind of shocked me. I did not know that it would have hit me this hard because I don't really listen to them. They're not necessarily a new band by any means, but they did get popular in the last couple years. And I liked their last album, but I didn't love it. But this release, oh my God. I remember getting it from my work, because I work at a record store. I bought it, brought it home, listened to it for the very first time on vinyl without hearing any of the singles that they released. And I kid you not, I cried. And not just cried, I sobbed to every single song on this album from start to finish. And that's something that an album I don't think has ever been able to, do to me. And when I say that, I mean it because, yeah, I've cried a lot to some albums, like a lot, here and there, but to cry every single track and feel the emotion that they're able to put into just their instruments by a chug of a guitar, or like, it was crazy. It was crazy. I didn't know and I did not expect that Sleep Token with Even in Arcadia would be my number 2 pick for my top 10 albums of the year. Even in Arcadia, where do I even start? I know it's been talked about to death at this point, but it is so good, and it deserves to be talked about because it is probably the best metal release that we have had this year in a full-length album. And I know I'm saying that without knowing all of the releases, so apologies if your favorite is not this. I don't mean to say you're wrong, but in my opinion, for everything that I have heard, wow. Because this isn't just metal. I don't even really know what to say it is. And when people say Sleep Token is metal, people instantly get mad like they're not metal, but I mean, as an overarching tone, they kind of are. But they're very much a twinkly, and to use it in a better light, a Disney kind of sounding metal act. I don't know how else to put it, and I don't mean Disney in the terms of childish or cheesy. I mean in magical. The way that they're able to do their instruments and make them sound, and the lyricism, poetry, absolute poetry. You're able to feel everything that Vessel and the rest of the band sing about, either through words or through the instruments. There is a part of a song, I believe it was in Infinite Baths, there's just a chugging guitar, and it made me cry because you could feel it get more intense. Whether or not that's how they meant it to be, that's how I felt it. And I guess that's what's important, right? But the track list goes Look to Windward, Emergence, Past Self, Dangerous, Caramel, Even in Arcadia, Provider, Damocles, Gethsemane, and Infinite Baths. Apologies if I butchered any of those song titles, but what a good album. It is short in terms of track list, but it is about an hour long, 56 minutes. Absolute magic from start to finish. And again, I am not a fan of Sleep Token, or at least wasn't, and I still haven't went back in their catalog. I've really only ever heard this in their last album. But this album, most certainly, magnum opus for them at this point. Very happy with it, and I know it has been talked to ad nauseum. I'm not going to go about every single track and say what it means to me, but if I had to pick an absolute number 1 favorite, I gotta give that to Gethsemane or Damocles as a runner-up. Just love those songs very much, and the whole album from start to finish, I don't think that there's a bad song on it. And personally, it could have made my number 1 if it wasn't for 21 Pilots with their release of their newest album, Breach, and Breach Digital Remains, because that came out the same day, on September 12th, 2025. Now, 21 Pilots, yes, they get my number 1 spot. Big surprise. If you listen to me, you kind of probably seen that one coming. But 21 Pilots, Breach, and Breach Digital Remains, same album, just the Digital Remains gave an extra track, which, yes, I'm including it because of how much it means to the album and to me. This album itself is the culmination of over 10 years of storytelling. This is it. This is the end of the story, and it went out with absolute fireworks. A bang, if you will. Completely caught off guard, amazing. I loved it. I don't even know where to begin. I could ramble on probably for far, far too long about just this one album because it is so good. So good. Start to finish, every track is just immaculate. I adore it. And I was able to go see them live, so again, check some past episodes. I got to see them live. I talk all about it. And I even got to listen to the album early at one of the early listening parties, which fantastic to finally experience something like that. But Breach itself, the track list, it goes City Walls, Raw Fear, Drum Show, Garbage, The Contract, Downstairs, Robot Voices, Center Mass, Cottonwood, One Way, Days Lie Dormant, Tally, Intentions, and then the Digital Remains track, Drag Path, which actually kind of went viral on TikTok, which is wild because they didn't mean it to. It's a song that doesn't actually exist. You only have it if you were there to buy Digital Remains in the short time period that it was available. Now, this album, again, I've talked about personally to nauseam, but I adore it. From start to finish, every track is gold. My favorite track on this one is Tally. It is the one that I claimed when the album list was first revealed, like the track list for it. And it kind of stuck that one became my favorite. I don't know if it's because I was making it become my favorite or it just because it's that good. Because holy fuck, it is that good. It is so good. And just, the whole album is just so good. And I don't mean to get so excited and, kind of ramble on about nothing here, but this album, it deserves your time. If you haven't heard 21 Pilots, this album here is once again the most polished, most mature, and probably the best album to listen to if you haven't ever heard them before. Personally, I would say listen to Clancy first if you get a chance, but if you only could pick one, give Breach a shot because it mixes together the lore with just everything that 21 Pilots is outside of that in a perfect bow, like just perfectly. And with it being the end of the storyline, of course, it hits very hard for me in a different way that it would a average or casual music listener. But my God, 21 Pilots, they are more than worthy of my number one spot this year. Nothing better than that came out this year. I'm sorry, in my opinion, but that Breach, they did amazing. And it actually has sat with me so well that it is my number 2. Like, Trench is still number 1 for many reasons for me, but Breach became my number 2. And if it wasn't for the attachment and memories I have of Trench, this one could very well go above that. Because in my opinion, some of the songs, like, not saying that they're better by any means, but just more concise. Like, this one just flows right through, whereas Trench, it is a lot of the lore, which some people aren't into. So, in my opinion, like, it is amazing. I very much loved it. And all that aside to say, 21 Pilots gets my number 1 award, my gold medal for Breach. So, my top 3, again, you know what? I'll just run through my top 10 again. 21 Pilots, Breach, Sleep Token Even in Arcadia, Acres the Host, Hayley Williams, Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party, MGK Lost Americana, Arrows in Action, I Think I've Been Here Before, All Time Low, Everyone's Talking, The Devil Wears Prada, Flowers, Hotel Mira, Pity Party, and 10 goes to Spirit Box, Tsunami Sea. A very good list, in my opinion, but of course, I'm the one that made it, so please share with me all of the releases that you have loved at Lights Monarch on all socials or in the comments below, wherever you can really, because I would love to hear it. And as for those honorary mentions that I did say I would get to, I have to kind of read these off, and I'm not going to take a whole long time talking about all of them, but just so you know, I did listen to these, they just didn't make my list, either because I liked the other ones more, or it's because I haven't actually heard them yet. And to start those off, let's start with Upon a Burning Body with Blood of the Bull, came out December 5th, 2025. Then Lady Gaga with Mayhem, March 7th, 2025. Set It Off, self-titled, November 7th, 2025. Yellow Card with Better Days, October 10th, 2025. 3 Days Grace, Alienation, August 22nd. Violet Night, Rosso Corsa, August 8th. Fit for a King, Lonely God, August 1st. Youngblood, Idols, June 20th. Token, I'm Not Supposed to Be Here, June 13th. And Hobo Johnson with Hobo Johnson Drinks, May 9th. And as for the ones I haven't heard yet, would be The Midnight Syndicate, October 3rd. Not Enough Space, Weaponize Your Rage, September 12th. Rebecca Sugar's Lonely Magic, August 29th. And Memphis Mayfire, Shapeshifter, which came out March 28th. Those albums in particular, that last chunk, I have not heard. The other ones just didn't make my list because, again, I like the other ones a bit more, just a little bit. So that is kind of my full release list, and I did want to touch on just at the end here about some EPs and singles that came out that are my top favorite. And though I don't have like a proper list here, I will say my number 1 release is Fear by NF. Came out November 14th, 2025. Obviously, I've been talking about it quite a lot. It kind of consumed everything I was for a moment there when it came out, and I'm still finding myself going back to it more than I thought I would have, or maybe that's not the right way to word it, but I have been going back to it quite a lot. And then, like, the second release of the year for me, that would, if I did put them in an order, would have to be Black Veil Brides with their single Hallelujah. Absolutely amazing. Obviously, a very far cry from what NF is, being he's a rapper. And in this album, he's very vulnerable, probably the most vulnerable NF has ever been in this EP. But Black Veil with Hallelujah, this song, when it dropped, I cried. I listened to it and cried. It is the most authentic Black Veil song that they have ever released. And I'm so excited. It makes me more excited than anything to get to this next album, which is coming out next year. That is probably my most anticipated release of 2026, aside from, which are the next ones I want to talk about, Bad Omens. They have an album on the way. Don't know when it's coming out, but hopefully next year. But they released Spectre on August 9th, Impose on September 10th, Dying to Love on October 22nd, and Left for Good on November 18th. Amazing tracks. I adore every single last one of those. I could not pick just one to talk about, so that's why I wanted to talk about all of them. Absolutely amazing. I cannot say how excited I am for that album as well. More so for Black Veil for sure, but Bad Omens, they've been releasing these 4 songs, and it makes me incredibly excited to see where this album is going to go in terms of sound and in terms of story. Because the music videos have been having some sort of story alongside it. I don't really know what it's going to be or what it's going to turn into. Nobody does, but I gotta say I'm excited. Then Medusa's Home by Rivals. That came out August 15th. I originally didn't know if I liked it, but it really sat with me and I really quite enjoyed it. Wouldn't say it's a top 10 release of the year, but I very much enjoyed it for what it was. And then Sweet by Mayday Parade. They did release Sad as well, but I prefer Sweet, and that came out on my birthday this year, April 18th, and I very much enjoyed it. I think that Mayday Parade is still going strong. It's crazy that they are. They have been doing kind of the same thing, and it just works ever since the start of their career. It's, again, crazy. But I am excited to see what this third EP is going to be, because there's still one left. We haven't heard it yet, and they haven't even talked about it yet, so I'm curious. Then Hotel Mira After Party. That is the EP that they released after their album on November 6th. Came out quite a bit after their album, but also very good. If not to say, I might enjoy that EP for what it is more than the full-length album, Pity Party, but still, all very good. If you haven't heard of Hotel Mira, go give them a shot. And of course, I cannot end this without saying TX2 and Black Veil Brides, The End of Us. I've talked about it already a lot, and it is something that I very much enjoyed. It is Black Veil, of course, I'm going to enjoy it, but there have been a lot more EPs, a lot more singles, and if I talked about every single last one, we would be here for hours. So I'm not going to do that, and instead I'm going to say, have a happy new year. I hope that this holiday season has been wonderful to you. Again, if you have your own top 10, be it albums, be it releases, whatever it is under the sun, let me know at Lights Monarch on all socials, or again in the comments below if you're watching it on YouTube, or even on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can comment. Please do so. I would love to start a conversation and hear what your thoughts are, if not on my list, then on your own, because everyone has different tastes. Everything will sit with someone different and affect someone differently, and I would love to know how music has affected you. So thank you so much for listening. Have a very happy new year, and thank you for discovering the music within.